Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited. It's going to be a great week. I'm teaching my two favorite things, toughness and telephone, this week, culminating in Friday training at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to teach about perspective of toughness and expansion and acceleration. And of course, one of the missing great elements in life, telephone. How do you actually use your telephone to be successful, to effectuate what you want? Join me at david@dmeltzer.com or dmeltzer.com. We got a question running right away. Here we go. I love these. Thank you, Jesse, by the way. She's always the first one on here. How to stop trying to figure things out when you feel confused. Don't stop trying to figure them out. Feeling confused means that you're on it. So what you want to do is follow step by step of what's confusing you, right? So utilizing and understanding what the critical business issues are, and getting stable data, and the things that you don't know that are confusing you, find people that are doing it and ask them for help, or find data, stable data that you can go ahead and search on. You have changed the way I view calling. I now try to get them to call me back. Yeah. So one of the things we'll talk about is most people don't even realize 80% of the time you reach out via phone, email, and even text. 80% of the time people don't get back to you. So you should just focus in on getting more people to get back to you, right? Because even if you stay the same in your closing ratio, if you get twice as many people to get back to you, you'll sell twice as many people. If you get 3 times, and that's where the biggest pool is. But we'll talk about that on Friday. You can also text me at 949-298-2905. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Kate, good to see you. And welcome, everybody. Aloha Jake. Let me see. Eric Wood was going to join me this morning. My Pro Bowl center, keynote speaker, color commentator for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network. The Buffalo Bills. Who here missed Chris Berman? I do. He is, it's amazing how quickly we forget. How to balance full-time job and starting a business. First of all, Max, what you need to do is get better at what you're doing. So looking here, if you get better at what you're doing, I always say double down on what you're doing, do it faster, do it better, get paid twice as much. It'll allow you to build other opportunities for yourself. Hey, Toe Check, man, you got to go live with me after Eric if we got time. I miss you, little man. What's going on? Good to see you there. I don't see E. Wood in the house. What's going on? Is he here? Is looking here. I'm looking back. And oh yeah, there he is. I'm apologizing. All right, let's bring him on. Former Pro Bowl center, keynote speaker, color commentator for the Buffalo Bills. Here he comes, the famous Eric Wood.
In there. I was enjoying you answering the questions.
That's my favorite part of the day, man. That's like, you know how the old school rappers probably, they just like to go and flow, and even if they have huge, like for me, that's my rap. Is like, give me questions, I just hammer them one at a time, get into the flow, and then I forget what time it is. So what play is that behind you?
Actually, not a play. That's me doing a pregame speech on the field in Buffalo during my career. Kind of goes towards the leadership and all that. The theme I like to get going in the office.
That is awesome. Were you a captain in college too?
Captain on the high school football team, but I was a 2-time captain in college, and should have been 5-time in the NFL. But on the Rex Ryan teams, there aren't captains. There's, each game they kind of choose something else. So I was captain on the front end of the Rex Ryan era and on the back end of it.
Yeah. And now you've taken that to a professional manner and helping to inspire people. One of the things I wanted to ask you that you seem to have a really good grasp on is the difference between motivation and inspiration, right? I talk and teach a lot about you need to motivate, you need to convert into inspiration. What's your take on that and perspective of that continuum?
I've never been asked that before, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm trying to inspire others. I'm trying to impact others in a positive way. When you transition out of the NFL and you pour your heart and soul into a career for so long, trying to be the best at one thing, when you transition out, there's a lot of unclarity. And right now I'm in broadcasting. I have a podcast. I do a little blog. So there's just, I'm still trying to figure it out myself, but I just know that if I can use the gifts that God gave me to impact others, then I'm going to get out of my own little world and kind of beat some of that anxiety and pressure that comes with that transition out of pro football. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm trying to inspire people. When I was playing, I often tried to motivate people on a day-to-day basis. I've learned quickly from my wife that family members don't love getting motivated like alpha males in a locker room. And a lot of times buddies and people you meet don't either. And it's almost better to just live in a certain way that would inspire action, motivate others just through the way you live, and let them make the decision themselves if they want to change or whatever they want to do.
Yeah, Eric, you make a good point. I got 4 kids, and my wife had to teach me, David, you don't have to harvest your children, meaning you can just go ahead and plant seeds with your children. We got to harvest people, in motivating them when we're playing football, right? We need to harvest all their strength, their power, their focus, their execution. But you can't harvest your kids. In fact, one of the great joys you'll see when your kids get older, my kids, I'm sitting in the car during Father's Day with them, and they start, talking about things that I teach. Let's just put it that way. And I would say, so where'd you learn that? Oh, I learned that, somewhere else. And I was thinking, you know what? My wife is a genius. I've been planting seeds, that these trees are starting to grow instead of pushing them. And, you keep the locker room motivation does not work at all when it comes to children. They'll resist you and end up in the wrong place. So it's better to plant those seeds. It's interesting too, transitioning from the NFL. You played a long time at a high level. You played football for even a longer time at a high level, which I think is important because I always told my mom, I said, when I stopped playing college football, and I was an average Division III football player, so not in the same league, I always like to leave that caveat for all those Hall of Famers that are my friends. They're like, you didn't play football, man. I go, you're right. I'm an average Division III, but I did experience one thing, not to the degree that you did. I experienced my first death. That last day, I still get choked up, right? I walked off the field. I'm like, man, this will never happen again. And regardless, I talk to so many athletes. I coach so many athletes. And that's the main thing that I'm trying to process for them. And even though I didn't have the type of experience, I'm able to at least communicate with them. I know that emotion. Let's work through that. How did you work through that emotional aspect of, your entire consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential for decades was off of one thing, and it stopped with one whistle blowing?
Over. I had just signed a contract extension before the season. Heading into my 9th year, I signed a contract extension before the season. I was the only player on the team to play 100% of the snaps that season, and then I'm the one with the career-ending neck injury. So I was not prepared for that at all. They just found it at exit physicals. I thought I was going to be preparing for a Pro Bowl. And instead, now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next with my life. And that started out by losing some weight because I knew with 6 lower body surgeries, that would be really good for my longevity and moving around to be able to play with my kids. So started off by losing some weight, and but I was completely unprepared. And this is a lesson that I tell people translates to business, but also sports. When you're in the moment, focus on the moment. So, and I say that when you're in pro football, if you start worrying too much about what you're going to be doing when you're done playing football, it's going to come a lot sooner than you think. And I got buddies that make great money. And I don't mean this in a facetious way at all, but I have buddies that make great money, and they make $250,000 a year living in Louisville, Kentucky. That's a great, great living. But if you can string one extra season at $5 million in the NFL, that is 20 years of that great job in 1 year. And now you get to invest that money, you get to compound it. So I tell guys, when you're playing, really focus on the main thing. But for me, I just wasn't prepared at all. I thought I had multiple years to even kind of think about what I was going to transition to. So for me, a lot of it was getting settled. We had a house in Buffalo that we left for the end of the season, and we just left all of our stuff there like we always would. And then I have to go up there. So it was a tough transition. And, the hardest thing for me, and I didn't quite realize it till that spring, was when we, start going to golf tournaments again, and I start seeing everybody around, and everyone says, "What do you do now?" What are you doing now? Oh, I'm still, I'm kind of trying to figure it out. I might trying to get in the media world. I'm not sure yet. Well, you're too young to be retired. I said, I'm not retired. I didn't say I was retired. I'm 32 years old. I want to do something else. I'm not going to sit at home. But there was a lot of external pressure, and guys get that when you leave football, especially when you play at a high level for a while. It's, oh, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And fortunately, I actually heard something the other day from a buddy of mine. I was having a conversation with a guy who is a mentor of mine. I believe you know him as well. He's a Southern California guy, Brian Murphy,
Oh
and
yeah.
president of Athletes First. And he said, Eric, I just want you to know, and we had this conversation 2 weeks ago. He said, Eric, I just want you to know that it's okay for you to just be you, and you can wake up in the morning and just be you, and that's all right. And I was like, man, I really appreciate you saying that, and because it's amazing, not intentionally, but the amount of pressure that can be put on you as a pro athlete.
Yeah, Murph is a great guy. Obviously, David and him have been friends for years and years here, neighbors actually. So it's been wonderful. And it's interesting how those little pieces of advice can stick with you from the people that have credibility in your life, and can give you a different perspective. One of the things that I find interesting in helping athletes transition is that all of those years that I've helped athletes transition as a coach, an executive coach, a business advisor, and a friend, it's helped me with this COVID transition, because now everybody on earth had the whistle blow or the neck injury, or the knee blowout, that every single person just literally, my distinguishing point was, once the NBA closed down, it was like, oh boy, right? It was literally like the doctor's report came in, or that final whistle blew in the scoreboard, and you're like looking around going, wait a second, and for me, it was more like the whistle blowing, because I have been preparing since 2008, knowing that it's been, 13 years of growth, that we're going to have a downturn. So at least I was preparing for a downturn. I didn't know it would be a pandemic, right? And I didn't know they would close businesses and what would go on. But I did expect a downturn of sorts and people losing jobs, just not at this amount. So it was a little bit easier. But even though, I knew I was going to play in the NFL, I knew my football career was over, it still doesn't prepare you for what you're talking about with people, and the whole, there's a hole, the locker room hole, the playing hole, the practicing hole, the routine hole. These are all holes that people experience right now. They have their own locker room, which may be their office, right? They have their own routine hole, which everybody absolutely, and you're more apt at it than anyone, right? If you can learn to fill your routine hole quickly and not sit around paralyzed, man, you're going to really excel as we come through the post-vaccine era of COVID and what's going on. What to you, you're in the media space now. What do you find the most exciting challenge? Because I'm in the same space as you, and man, I don't think people can grasp how huge this whole thing is, being able to reach everybody on earth now. I don't think there's systems in place for an individual like Eric Wood that his possibility is 4.4 billion people, and people can't grasp that. What's the most exciting challenge that you face?
One of your recent podcasts, and you were talking about the 4.4 billion people and trying to get and reach them all, and the compounding of the twos. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I appreciate you putting out that content. But for me, I approach it all with a lot of humility. I am just one guy trying to figure out life. And through my podcast, What's Next with Eric Wood, I just interview people that I'm going to learn from. And I just figure if I'm putting out content that I'm learning from, that's impactful for me, people will find impact in it as well. And I started it just kind of as a journey into the media field. Just, hey, I'll produce some content through this podcast. And some of the feedback that I got from people, I'm like, well, I can't stop now. And you talk about transitioning into COVID. We had a lot of plans for this spring, because when you're in broadcasting, I call NFL games and college games, my fall and early winter is just completely booked off from August to, hopefully the Buffalo Bills make a long playoff run. That'd be January to February. So I'm completely booked off. This spring, we had a lot of family trips lined up. I had some golf trips with buddies, so it all gets canceled. And it was time for me to pivot, because I looked at my schedule and started wiping out trips and whatnot. and I had nothing on there. And so I said, well, now is the time where I can really dig in. And I say all this, and I know you have to probably be careful a lot of times as well, because there's people going through extremely tough times right now, lost loved ones, jobs, businesses they built. I'm a small business owner. I own a gym here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we're open back up, but it's not going to be a fun, it's not going to be a fun ride trying to get everything back to how it was. So I am considerate of that, but it was time for me to try and capitalize on my own personal downtime. And so I've gotten some fun guests, and I'm watching ESPN one day, and they make reference to my interview with Ryan Fitzpatrick on the bottom line and make reference to my podcast. I said, man, that's really cool, considering at one point I didn't know if anybody would tune in. I just wanted to produce some content that I could really just use for interviews and whatnot. And so I've tried to really hone in during this COVID time to say, okay, well, what can I do personally? And with more people with downtime, I'm able to get Mike Vrabel, the Titans head coach. I'm able to get Fitzpatrick, the Bills head coach, the Bills GM, and just a number of these guys that don't normally have so much downtime. I can get them to hop on the podcast with me. But to your original point, I transitioned once out of football, and so transitioning again gets easier and easier, and you build that resiliency. But I think a lot of people are finding out through this COVID time where their foundation truly lied. Was it in sporting events on TV? Was it in your job? Was it in your social events? Whatever it may be, you're finding out where your foundation was, because when you start stripping away all these layers, where do you stand? Are you doom and gloom every day now, or are you able to rebound and pivot in whatever direction you needed to go?
Yeah, I love that. And just finishing up, what I think has really been exposed are people's capabilities. When we have to go through a transition, and you see this with the associates you had playing with all through your career from college to pro, and here now in the business world, is you really get to see, all right, whose capabilities. It's interesting, the phoenixes out there, the people that have skills, knowledge, and can take that resilient desire and still succeed regardless of the difficulties, challenges, the smiling through struggle, whatever it is. Just like a football game, when you're in that huddle behind you, and you're to take you mentally through it, the guys, when it's fourth down and you need a yard, right? And you know what the play is, and you're looking there, and which guys have the skills, the knowledge, and more importantly, the desire to must get that 1 yard. You know it, feel it, because you've been through the years of practice and the 2-a-days, or even 3-a-days if you're old enough, and you're looking around going, I know exactly who's going to get the ball and exactly who he's going to run behind, because statistically that's where we're going to go. And I feel the same way in business. You know what I mean? I knew exactly who I was going to call, right? Because the ball's going to find the weakest player, but I'm going to go ahead and call and give the ball to the guys that I know have the skills, knowledge, and desire to do it. And you're proving that. Your podcast is awesome. Can't wait to do more content with you as well. I'm just really proud of you and appreciate you coming on live with me. And let's do more stuff, my friend.
You're all about, David. Anytime I can do anything for you, just reach out, brother.
You got it, man. Keep up the good work. I'll talk to you soon. Take care of the great Eric Wood. Doing it off the field. And some of the skill sets that he learned on the field, he's now just taking off the field. And no doubt why he's so successful. And I think he'll find that guys will make themselves available even during the football season, the guys that nobody else can get. Those guys, they have more time, but they are attracted to the people like him, positive, successful. And one of the things that he mentioned is we have to be careful because people are dying. People are not doing well. There is all this struggle. One of the things that I say is that you need to receive yourself so you can help those people that are struggling. Unfortunately, there are always people struggling, dying, in bad places, out of jobs, etc. And if you diminish your capacity, you will not be helping them at all. You cannot be poor enough to make other people rich, but you can be rich enough to make them rich. You cannot be sick enough to make them well, but you can be well enough to make them well. This is what I'm talking about. You got to focus in on receiving so you can give, not give so you can receive. All right? It's a very, very clean distinction, one that's helped my life. Looking for another question. I think Jacob Pace, our CEO of Flight House, is coming on next. Let's see here. How to avoid action faking God, toe check. I want to go live with you because I don't know what that means. Action faking. Any idea? Action faking? Imposter syndrome? I don't know. Let's go live and I'll ask what that means. Because I'd really like to know. I love this kid. How can you stop yourself feeling cynical when so much bad news inundates us? Oh, does it really inundate you? Bad news inundates you, then you're listening to the wrong things, right? You don't have to listen. I seek the knowledge that I want. I seek the stable data that effectuates what I want. I'm not inundated with anything other than with that which I choose to be inundated with, which is normally something that's going to allow me to accelerate and grow. Oh, turn the channel, right? That's all I got to say. If you're inundated with negativity, turn the channel, make a list of the stable data that you need, and go seek it once or twice a day at most so that you have the data that you need. But do not inundate yourself with negativity. It will find you and bleed you, right? If it feeds you, feed it. Find the stable data that you need. You should not be inundated with negativity. I don't care what the situation is. Read Viktor Frankl, right? Read Viktor Frankl. Did he inundate himself with negativity for all those years? Read it. Do not inundate yourself with that. It's a terrible thing to do. Seek what you want, and it will come to you. Why are taxes not taught in the school curriculum as well as other life skills? Great question. Financial literacy should be part of our program, but I think, as we rethink financial institutions, as we think educational institutions, I think people will use more expert. Wouldn't it be nice to learn entrepreneurship from David Meltzer or Gary Vee or somebody else? Wouldn't it be nice to have people that are available via Zoom come into the classroom and have a curriculum for people that are volunteering their time to give the real life skills, the emotional intelligence that's necessary in order to effectuate change, acceleration? What about altitudinal and attitudinal behavioral education, teaching mindset, heart set? What if we taught those in the schools and brought in the world thought leaders, my friends from the Transformational Leadership Council? Imagine Bob Proctor or Jack Canfield or Mary Morrissey or Sharon Lecter or Cynthia Kersey or Blaine Bartlett or any of these people. Imagine them coming into a classroom and how we could change. These are the teachers that, when we build the schools in Africa, that are teaching attitudinal behavior and attitudinal education, that not only provides the basic skill sets that we need that aren't provided via technology, but also how we do that. Hey, Jacob's here. Hey, welcome, my friend. Let's go live with Jacob Pace. Sorry to interrupt. CEO of Flight House Media and VP of Business Development for Crate Music Group. There he is.
Hey, what's up, David?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing good. By the way, if I look like I just rolled out of bed, it's because I did. Because I emailed you this morning. I was feeling a little sick, but Jake just called me, so I'll make it happen.
You could have no-showed. I got plenty of questions, but I will tell you this. I wish you're like my son. I wish I was that good looking where I could just roll out of bed and look that good.
Dude, no makeup.
I had to work to look this good.
But yeah, man, good to be on. Sorry for being late. I was just resting a little bit.
Hey, I'll give you first piece of advice. Never apologize for being late. The energy is much better when you say, thank you for your patience, Dave.
All right, cool. You apologize now.
Yeah, right on. Anyway, man, totally excited to have you on. Obviously, you have your finger on the pulse with media, et cetera. And as a young digital entertainment executive, I was hoping that you could kind of give us a little bit of perspective of where you see content going right now, pre-COVID vaccine, and where it's going to be post-COVID.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think just in general, I think where I've kind of seen it going is just increasingly digital. I mean, I think the world was already kind of headed in kind of like a digital direction before COVID, but I think after COVID, like I was even just listening to a few kind of webinars and, researching some information yesterday, and it's just exploded like way more after COVID because everyone was forced to be at home. I think just kind of an interesting company to observe. Are you familiar with Quibi?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting one, right? Because like his whole kind of philosophy on, his whole kind of philosophy on content was like he wanted people to consume Quibi between their like busy everyday lives. And so when everyone was stuck at home, it kind of, put a wrench in things. But kind of just an interesting case study. But I think just in general, it's going increasingly digital. And You know, for us, our entire business is digital. And so we've actually seen, we've been even busier since all of this has been happening. So it's kind of interesting.
And, you know, I see all types of music integration with TikTok and product placement of music, which is, you know, always been an area that I've been interested in, you know, whether it's creating, you know, different tunes combined with brands, athletes, etc. For me, music has always been a key component that kind of sticks out to only the niche people that understand the business of sports. But now, you know, I'm watching TikTok and I'm watching a lot of product placement of music, a lot of people being paid to use their riff, their song. Are you dealing with a lot of product placement of music right now on the digital side?
Yeah, so that's kind of like a huge part of our business. There was actually a really great article that came out yesterday on Billboard, and we were kind of mentioned in it and, you know, quoted and stuff. But yeah, it was just talking about music and how music is such a big part on TikTok and how businesses like ours are responsible for, you know, certain records on the app that no one has had, you know, known about. And I think it'll just be interesting when, you know, right now it's kind of like the Wild West, but I think as it grows, it's going to be interesting to see if this is something that, you know, bigger organizations start to pay attention to. Because right now it's just very, very gray area. But yeah, we do a lot of music stuff. But then, you know, we also do a good amount of, you know, promo campaigns for brands too. And obviously a lot of that stuff is very regulated. So you got to do hashtag ad and, you know, promo, whatever. But the music stuff is very gray area because it's kind of unprecedented. But yeah, we do a lot of that stuff.
And then, you know, every single business I'm talking about now, by finding a frequency, strengthening your signal, widening your spectrum, and kind of clarifying your message, you know, this idea of building ambassadorship. You know, obviously you guys have over 20 million followers in what you do. You know, in the past, you know, the only thing that music in traditional sense were interested in was selling records or tickets to a concert. And now we actually have a platform, right? We have an audience or a community. And, you know, not to age myself, but I'll give you some advice I got from my mentor. I remember, not digitally, but sitting down in person with a guy named Dr. Jacobs. And Dr. Jacobs was the founder of Qualcomm, right? A CDMA chip, you know, a real entrepreneur. And we went into this room at Qualcomm. I was in my 20s and, you know, just became CEO of the world's first smartphone. And he's walking me around. And they have all this technology stuff, hardware, all this stuff in this room. And he looks at me and goes, you know what business we're in? I'm like, yeah, you're in the chip business, right? And he looks at me and goes, no. He goes, I own the customer. And when I watch, you know, since you built your career and I've watched you now take over the Creative Music Group, what I think is fascinating is how well you own your customer. And when you own the customer, you can do so many different things with the customer, no matter what changes, even on a point. And what is the secret to you? You know, Dr. Jacobs gave me his secrets, but what's one of the secrets you find that allows you to own the customer, to build such a great community? Not just followers, right? Like I make fun of Selena Gomez all the time. She has 160 million followers, but can't sell out a movie. You know, you guys have ambassadorship, you know, real loyal relationship with your following. What do you think the secret to that is?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, look, I think every day we're always looking because, you know, at the end of the day, that's something that I really emphasize is like, you know, it's great that we have 25 million followers. But, you know, you know, I guess just remembering that the only reason we basically are what we are is because, you know, someone decided at some point to follow us and, you know, consistently kind of tune in, you know, to our content, right? And I think it all, like, I believe kind of, you know, change happens from within, change, you know, happens, yeah, I mean, let's just start there, right? Change happens from within or action happens from within, right? And I feel like it just kind of starts with, you know, first of all, a desire to just create quality content and a desire to get to know who our customer is. Again, I think it's kind of a process, to be honest with you, that we haven't really perfected, but it's definitely something that we're very, very aware of, which is, you know, how do we establish a better relationship with our customer and with our fan base? But again, our customer can be a fan. Our customer can be a record label. Our customer can be, a brand, right? So it's like we need to kind of understand it in different ways. But I mean, it's basic principles, right? It's, you know, it's having integrity, it's having passion for what you do, it's wanting to work hard. And I think those three things, plus maybe a couple of others, will at least set you up in the right direction. So that as you kind of move forward, you're keeping all this stuff in mind, and you're not really going to ever have to worry about much else if you kind of keep that compass within. I do find it interesting, though, the idea that, because, you know, again, I don't know what this kind of statement is. We're actually having a lot of internal brand conversations, just about like our brand and you know, our identity and you know, what we stand for and stuff. But I do find it interesting, like even just like your mentor said, where, you know, you were like, oh, you're in the chip business, and he's like, no, you know, or I don't know what he said, we're in the business of having, you know,
Owning the customer. Yeah, he owns the customer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, owning the customer. You know, it was funny. It's really coincidental, but I had a dream last night, and it was like, it was something. Maybe it was like a weird, like sick dream or something. You know, it's like super lucid or something. No, but it was something that I was like, I was looking at this business or something, or someone was telling me about their business, and they were like, oh yeah, we don't, like, everyone thinks that, like, I don't know, making cupcakes is our business, but it's actually making people happy or something like that. It was something like that they said in the dream. And then I started thinking about it.
That's my business, man. That's my whole life.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I just saw my wife jumped on, so let's wave to her. Hey, Julie, we love you. Julie always jumps on when they got the good-looking guys. So she'll be like, look at this guy. All right, I get it.
I know, right?
I see you,
But yeah,
Julie.
I
know
think
what you're
it's interesting. You got the product, but then you have like the purpose, right? And I think, like, very tentatively, what we've written down so far is to, you know, entertain, inspire, and educate, right? Like mainly young adults. And so that's like where we kind of stand.
Yeah. Last question real quick, because one of the other things I noticed, you know, indicative of today, right? You're not feeling 100%, but, you know, you don't have to jump on some live with Dave Meltzer, but you go ahead through the toughness of consistent behavior of who you are. You're going to jump on and do what you do. I'm doing a training on Friday. You know, my happiness goal to create a collective consciousness, free training every Friday. The other thing I'm going to teach besides toughness that you have is telephone. In your generation, right? I believe one of the missing or distinctive things that I can do is teach somebody to use the telephone in a different way than it's being used today. A way that I learned to use it that can create a whole bunch of business. You know, give me your perspective, because I'd love to use this in my training on Friday. You know, give me your perspective on how best you use the telephone today.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my go-to. It's funny. There's kids that are even more on their telephones than me that like don't even use laptops. I'm like, dude, I can never do that. Like, I need to type on something. Like,
me too.
I start to feel old-fashioned for saying that. You know, I'm like, damn, you're running your entire business off your phone. Like, I need to type on something, dude. I like, that's how I answer emails. Like, no way, I just can't concentrate unless I like have the focus of my entire laptop. It's like my rocket ship or whatever. But no, it's huge, man. I mean, like, you know, if I'm on the go, I have my cell phone on me, use it for texting, all that kind of stuff. I think just the internet in general was kind of a big tool that I leveraged when I was back in Texas. And I credit the internet, in addition to many other factors and people that kind of got me out here to LA, just because I was connecting with people on Facebook and, you know, networking. And but look, and I think this is really just really quickly, just something, I just hear this word a lot, especially with like young people that are getting out of college, getting out of high school. They're like, oh, I'm going to network. I'm going to network. I'm going to network. And they use that term. And it's like real, I don't know, in my opinion, real networking, you don't need to call it networking for it to be networking, right? It's just providing value. It's just providing value for what you think you want to provide value towards. Like when I went on Facebook, I wasn't like, all right, I'm going to, you know, network today. I was just like, okay, I'm going to open up my laptop. I'm going to sign up for this blog. I'm going to start writing. Naturally, I'm going to meet people through that. I'm going to have a purpose. I'm going to be able to provide value to artists and provide value to labels. I'm going to reach out to them. And that in and of itself is networking, but I'm not reaching out saying, hey, would love to network with you. Are you available for a 10-minute call? Like, I'm not hopping on a phone call with someone unless I actually have something value I can bring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of
You're
how
wise beyond your years, man. You're wise beyond your years.
right, right.
Real quick, do you know how many minutes a day you spend on telephone calls, calling people? Do you know?
Oh, calls? Shoot. I mean, probably, I would say around 5 hours.
There you go. That's what we're going to talk about on Friday, because that's why when you have over 25 million followers, but he spends over 5 hours on telephone calls. And I think a lot of people miss how you are successful using a combination of all that a phone can do, and a laptop, by the way, because I'm with you. So Jacob, man, I really appreciate, even though you're not feeling well, coming on. I appreciate your insight. It really will help a lot of people. You're one of the few young executives. Every single thing you say, I'm like, normally trying to improve. The only thing I can give advice on is to say thank you for your patience, not I'm sorry, and it gives a better energy to it. Otherwise, you got A+ on all the Dave Meltzer questions. A+, A+, A+. So
nice. Wait, what
I'll
was
see you on the
that you said
playbook.
again?
I'll see you on the playbook in a couple
Sounds
weeks.
good, man. Let's do it. What was the saying you said? You said thank again for your patience. Thank you again.
Yeah. So like when you're late, just say thank you for your patience. Don't say I'm sorry for being late. It has a better energy to it.
Cool. I like that a lot. Well, cool, man. Honestly, I'm pumped now, so I'm probably just gonna get a start to the day.
There you go. Feel better, man. Take care. Thanks for joining me.
No problem, David. Bye.
All right. Jacob Pace, CEO of Creative Music Group. Just doing it. Over 25 million followers. I thought he had over 20, but real followers, by the way. Success starts from making your bed. Oh, my goodness, Justin. My grandma used to always tell me that. I make my bed. All right. You are the man, Jacob, says Jake and Liv and Julie and Simon. Thank you. Big fans out there. All right. I'm going to take one last question. Join me Friday, 949-298-2905 to register. David at D Meltzer, if you want a free book, go ahead. You want some exercise guides from last week, replays, podcast, the playbook, go ahead. David at D Meltzer, 949-298-2905, or just dmeltzer.com. Check out all the different things, / coaching, training, whatever you want. David at dmeltzer.com. Please join me Friday. It's free. So we're not going to charge you anything. My books are free. The exercises are free. Just please. The Baba Bag boys are here. They're giving some great insights. Patrick's here. Thank you for joining me. My wife, Julie. You know what? If Toe Check is here, I hate to do this because I'm running out of time. Let me just rock your world real quick. I'm going to let this boy join in here. My man, where are you at? Come on, from Africa.
Hello.
All right, I got 1 minute, one question, but I needed you're like a boost of adrenaline. You're like testosterone in a bottle, man. You fire everybody up. Look at you just going. You are so happy and so full of light. Give me a good question for the day, Chocek. Oh, wait, no.
Okay,
What do you mean? What do you mean by your question? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by that question? Action faking. Action. You said how to avoid action faking.
How to avoid action faking.
Yeah. What's action faking?
Okay. I saw it. Someone was talking about it. It's basically like deluding yourself that. It's basically like deluding yourself that you're doing work, like
imposter like an imposter syndrome, or not feeling worthy.
No, like action faking is basically like you reading a book or you writing a schedule or you doing something like that and feeling like you're actually working towards a goal. Like,
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what he's asking is, how do you avoid procrastination and just going through the motions of things, just keeping yourself busy compared to productive, right? Just keeping yourself busy and not being productive, right?
Basically, being like you doing action that is not directed as your goal, but you believe you're actually doing action, like something like that.
Okay, yeah. So you're not being effective with your action. It's not aligned. Yeah. So how do you avoid that? So the key to me is being a student in my calendar, which is aligned directly to my values for the day. Not being afraid to be a hypocrite, but knowing every day my personal values. This is what I value today. My experiential values. This is what I want to experience today. These objectives that you're talking about. And then my receiving and giving values, which are one, meaning that the more that I receive, the more that I can give. And therefore, if I'm studying, and the word studying means pay attention to and give intention, right? Nothing in your life, Chocek, is not intended. Anything in your life, good or bad, you've intended it to be there, right? It's an aggregate of what you think, say, do, and believe, and your unconscious competencies, personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. So what you're asking is, how can we be more intentful about what we're doing? And the key is to take inventory of those values and be a student of your calendar. Pay attention to and give intention to everything you have planned, all the empty space in your calendar, especially what you haven't had planned, and then also your sleep. If I could tell a young person like you to start studying sleep, change your life by clearing the connection to the greatest source of light, love, and lessons that you are so connected to, that, you know, make you shine and liberate you to liberate other people with their freedom and accountability and peace and gratitude. All the things that I can see flow through you to others, even though you're so young. You have to stay directed, though. There has to be a discipline, a strategy. There has to be an enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. And that only happens by taking inventory of your values and studying your calendar every single day, 7 days a week. 7 days a week, 2 minutes a day with more than 2 hours on a weekend. Man, and I know you're doing that. I need you to teach other people. You are one of my 1,000s. You are definitely one of those seeds of trees that I will never sit under, but I know the collective consciousness of happiness can be ours, yours and mine, from both sides of the world. We're going to connect everybody. Does that sound fair?
Sounds awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that answer.
You come.
The last thing is, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
The last thing is, I try to plan out my day. I try to plan out my week. But, you know, first of all, I'm living under my parents. So when I try to plan things out, when something from either my parents, my brother, or something just happening around seems to be disrupting the calendar and helps me lose valuable time. How do you deal with something like that? Because I know you're someone that structures your calendar so well. I saw you posted it on your page. How do you deal with disruptions in between?
Yeah, so when I have occurrences that derail me from my true routine, I have an adaptable routine. So I immediately move to an adaptable routine, which is value-based, meaning my priority number one in my life is my health. So number one, if things are derailed, I go immediately to a minimum of an hour a day on my health. 2, my family is next. So I make sure I get a minimum of 30 minutes with my wife, Julie, who is on here, my son, Miles, who's 10, my 3 teenage daughters. I have my mom. Then I go back, right? I go back and I prioritize my calendar again. So when things get derailed, I stop, drop, and roll. Number 1, health. 2, family. 3, right back into being a student of my calendar, restudying, re-equipping, re-engineering, re-equating what I have planned, what I don't have planned in my sleep, making sure that I get back on track. That calendar is a cornerstone. That calendar is my GPS. That calendar is the aggregate of all of my attention and intention. That calendar is the aggregate of my values. That calendar allows me as a repository for what I could not do yesterday that get put into today. So when I have a do it now philosophy, I do it now, but if I can't do it now, it just becomes an item in my calendar for tomorrow. So have 2 routines, an adaptable routine and a set routine. Use your own values and that cornerstone, that aggregate platform in order to effectuate efficiencies, statistical success that will bring you what? Gratitude, accountability, forgiveness, and inspiration. Does that sound fair?
Sounds awesome.
All right, my man, I got to go back
much.
to activity I get paid for. You are the man. You're one of my golden 1,000s. I'm counting on you. We're going to connect, you and I, the whole world together in happiness, okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate you so much. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
You're blessed. Thank you, my friend. There he is, the real deal. You know it when the truth vibrates the fastest. People ask me, what do you mean by the truth vibrates the fastest? I mean toe check. Right? That's what I mean. Watch that again and again. You'll know the truth when you see it. You'll know the authentic, organic truth when you see it. That's the truth, and it vibrates the fastest. Come learn the truth about toughness and telephone on Friday. Join me 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 949-298-2905. Email me if you want a free book, exercises, or register. It's free. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I am here to help you. I will be here tomorrow. I will be here Friday especially. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, as Tocek always says, be kind to your future self and do good deeds.